If Islam accepts Israel and the truth about Israel and the legitimacy of Israel and the legitimacy of Jerusalem being a Jewish city, if Islam does that, Islam is finished.
The dichotomy that I'm referring to, you also see in Israel. You see it because Arabs do work in Israel. Arabs do come in, and they are an integral part of the economy there. And people are respectful of each other, right?
Exactly.
But then they go back to their indoctrination, whether it's in Gaza or the West Bank or wherever it may be. Eastern Jerusalem, okay? Talk to me about the dichotomy today, about how we can approach the Arabs, and I, for a lack of a better term, and I keep referring back to this, the moderate Arabs, okay? Because I know a lot of Arabs in Israel like Israel.
Of course.
So I'm referring to the moderates in Israel. They like Israel. They respect Israel, right? They're able to raise their families in relative security. Okay, you refer to them as traitors, or they are referred to as traitors. Is that what you're saying?
If you truly love Israel and are public about it, you become a traitor. But there is a double psychology about Arabs that the West doesn't understand. When I was a Muslim, I could incorporate two opposite views at the same time in my mind and feel perfectly comfortable with it. On the one hand, I love Western freedoms. I love to say I love peace. On the other hand, when somebody goes to go kill the Jews, I look at it as normal. I don't see the conflict here. Unfortunately, a lot of Arabs have that attitude. We were trained for 1400 years to incorporate two opposite ideas at the same time in our mind and feel perfectly comfortable with it. And the West doesn't understand that. For instance, a Palestinian leader or an Arab leader can say that Islam is a religion of peace. We only want peace with Israel. It's they are who don't want peace. We want peace. Okay? You hear them say that. And at the same time, that same leader, in the same day, will turn around, speak to an Arab audience, and say, jihad, 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 go kill the Jews.
Right.
And that same leader feels no conflict whatsoever in what he says. I was like that. And that is a part of the Islamic mind. That's how we were trained, to celebrate wanting to kill Jews, and at the same time, we want to enjoy living in their benefit.
It's almost sociopathic.
Yes, because I was one of them. So I understand. When I came to America, even though I felt that there was a problem with Islam, I still defended the Palestinians, and I still could sit in a group of people and speak ill about Israel. I did that.
If Islam accepted Israel, which I don't ever see happening,
Then Islam is finished.
it's illegitimate.
If Islam accepts Israel and the truth about Israel and the legitimacy of Israel and the legitimacy of Jerusalem being a Jewish city, if Islam does that, Islam is finished.
You know,
Theologically
speaking, listen, I was in Israel a couple of years ago, and I was very fortunate through some connections that I was there with to receive a tour of tunnels where they're excavating under the first temple, under the Western Wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's areas where a lot of tourists can go. We went deeper than that. It was Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. There were scaffoldings and rickety bridges, and it was incredible. And as you go down deep, you see the layers. It's almost like a 7-layer dip. You see the arches, the Muslim.
Yeah, a city built
right?
on a city.
On top of it, and then you hit bedrock.
Yes.
And the bedrock is the first temple.
Yes.
That was there before the Babylonians and Nebuchadnezzar came in.
Absolutely.
Right? So you are looking at facts. You're looking at history. In
You
fact,
can't hide it.
I carry this around with me, and I may not probably show this on television. This is from the
Part of
bedrock.
it. Yeah.
This is from the bedrock of the first temple. There is nothing beneath that.
This is what Islam wants to hide.
And so how do you have this debate with people that just say that this doesn't happen, this isn't a fact?
Islam does not want to accommodate anybody. Islam does not want to live in harmony with other ideologies. Islam wants to replace. It wants to take your place. Islam does not want to accommodate other religions. Islam wants to replace them. And
so it's
when
not
it
about
goes-
living in peace then.
No. See, this is what Islam wants to cover.
Right.
How does it cover?
And it tried to cover it many
Yeah.
times,
They
physically.
built on top of it a mosque.
Right,
That's what they did.
right.
So if you take out the mosque, you'll see the Jews and the Jewish Holy Land. And this tells you Islam as an ideology, really, it wants to replace. It doesn't want to coexist. And this is the nature of Islam. It does not want to coexist.
So how do you wake again, getting political here again, but this is the reality of our world today. How do you answer the leftists, the multiculturalists today throughout Western Europe, the mayors of London and Birmingham? Listen, I drove through Birmingham about 10 years ago, and on my way to the airport, I actually wrote about this once. On my way to the airport, I stopped for a pint in a pub. I had no idea where I was. I figured it was just a pub. It was England. And I was in, the bartender comes up to me and he says, "You better get out of here, Gov. This is a no-go. You're not welcome." And I look around and there was it was 2:00 on a Thursday, and it was filled with 20-something men, groups of men wearing, football outfits, and they were all staring at me, and I all realized immediately they were all Middle Eastern. Okay.
Was it a pub?
It was a pub. And now it turns
Was it
out
serving beer?
Right. There you go. So,
So, see, it's not religion then.
Right, no.
It's
hatred.
It's hatred.
It's hatred.
So it's not.
They were
it's
drinking.
not religion.
That's against the
Exactly.
Quran, right?
So it gives you an angle about what Islam is all about. What's the priority of Islam?
So I guess, and I don't think there is an answer to this, but, because you've been an outspoken advocate for years and years on this, to awaken people. Addressing the leftists and the multiculturalists, what can we say I hate the term, to make them woke?
Awake, yeah. Well, they won't, because they agree with the basic philosophy of Islam. Islam was created as a rebellion against the Bible. Islam does not want to coexist with the Bible. Mm-hmm. It doesn't want to coexist with biblical values. It feels extremely threatened with Bible and the biblical values. And that's why Jews and Christians were practically almost eliminated from the Middle East. I mean, if you can't see that, there is no way I can convince anybody. Islam was created as a rejection and a rebellion. It's a counter-revolution to the biblical revolution. The biblical ethics revolution was destroyed by Islam in the Middle East. And then it moved to Europe and the West, and now the West has no more, the left in the West no longer cares about their biblical roots. In fact, they want to destroy it. They think they can maintain their level of sophistication, human rights, democracy, equality, all their views about what life should be. They think they can maintain that without the Bible, but they can't.
Last question for you on the Israel issue, and that is, why does half the world, you see it at the UN, it's over half of the UN, support the Palestinians? and Hamas.
Yeah, because they respect numbers. Humanity is all about power and numbers. If you get a group of people and one person has a minority view, even though his view is the correct one, most people, the majority of people will gravitate to please the majority. The number of Muslims in the world, number of nations in the world are Muslim. So the United Nations naturally is more controlled by it's numbers. The goals of Islam and the goals of the left are similar. And you know what it is similar in what? They want total control of the human mind. That's what they want.
People say that about progressives, and
yes.
you've seen that with free speech and the totalitarian
Islam
approach.
wants total control of the human mind, and the left, the goal of the left and secularism is to make us all little robots in their world, and they give us a little salaries. We all work for the government, and we all live in similar housing, and they throw a little meat at us, and we're like little animals. We devour it, and we're happy for the government to take care of us.
Yeah.